What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Hype is at an all-time high right now for Sony, with their State of Play happening later on today. And of course, as we're leading into that, there have been other things that have been hinted at and teased, so I figured we'd do a bit of a roundup here for what we can expect to be at that event here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo with this direct speculation that's gone to another level as, wouldn't you know it, a rating popped up for a very popular game with a Switch 2 edition that has people going crazy with the whole direct situation. And we have Nvidia, they show up with, they say, the next evolution for the PC. After 40 years now, we're going to the computer 2. And well, based on the way that Microsoft and many other manufacturers are moving along with them, they might actually be onto something, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with Sony and their Fight Stick. Now, this is over on PlayStation Blog, where they do announce that pre-orders for Flex Strike will begin on June 12th, and that is their wireless or wired Fight Stick. You can go between either one, and while pre-orders are going to be starting here soon, they do have the release date for this Fight Stick. That'll be August 6th, and naturally, they're pairing it right next to Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. Okay, this Fight Stick is going for the price of $200. They also show it with a nice little case there. I guess you can put it in when you're traveling around. You know, I looked at it for $200. That seems about right. I feel like for like a quality mass-produced fight stick like this, you could say. So let me know down in the comments if you're someone who's really into like the fighting game or FGC community, FGC. Let me know if this is about right, because that's when I saw the price come up, I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's the same price basically as a DualSense Edge controller, this though being a full wireless or wired fight stick. I don't know, it seems to slot in at the price that I feel like most people were expecting. Also, I have good news, because who doesn't like free stuff? In fact, Gravity Circuit 2 was announced, and you can see some of the trailer here. This is a fun surprise, because I didn't know if I wasn't expecting like a sequel for the first Gravity Circuit, which is an awesome game if you've never played it. It's modeled around like old school 2D Mega Man style games that obviously are like right up my alley. I really enjoy those games. So naturally, I really enjoyed Gravity Circuit. And the good news for that is it's completely free right now. Like, I think over the next 2 weeks or so, it's free to claim on Steam. And I will say this, if you're able to watch this YouTube video on your PC, it can probably run Gravity Circuit 1, okay? Like, it doesn't need much. It's like Core 2 Duo, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and 500 megabytes of storage. So yeah, I mean, you look at the visuals, it's not like super high-end 3D visuals, but it has that old school charm to it, and it's an awesome, I'd say more melee-focused style Mega Man game. And it looks like in Gravity Circuit 2, they have another protagonist that you can play as that maybe is a little more projectile focused. So that's a fun way to kind of differentiate it from the first one. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention if you've never played the game. I mean, I think it's certainly worth at least claiming to your Steam account, even if you don't even, I guess, have something you can play it on right this second, because it is an awesome game and I'd say is worth checking out down the road. But for now, Gravity Circuit 2 is slated for 2027. Oh, and as we've been going along, Nintendo has been adding different tracks into their music application. Now, though, they seem to have an entire setup to where you can go to this music application on your web browser. You can see this is over on music.nintendo.com. You will need to sign in with your Switch Online membership, so understand you need a membership for this. But once you're signed in with your account, yeah, you can just hang out here with it open in a Chrome or Firefox, whatever tab, and just listen to all these different tracks. People have been asking for it to be on something other than just your mobile device. Now, I do think they still need an application for, I don't know, the Switch or the Switch 2. Still kind of strange I guess that's not a thing, but they're at least making progress here with it available on your phone and through web browser interface. So next up, I guess, would just be, I guess, on your system. Still, though, pretty cool to at least have it there if you're maybe hanging out a lot on your PC a lot, doing all kinds of work. You can kind of have that playing in the background. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony and their State of Play. That will be live later on tonight or this evening, late afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern or 2 p.m. Pacific time. And there's a lot of stuff going around right now. I will say there's also those fake lists that are popping up. Like, I think PO shared one over on X, and I saw it, and I think most people did and went, well, that's obviously fake. And I think he's mostly just trolling about this because this has happened so many times. If you ever see one of those like lists that pop up that look like they were done in just Word, like a Word document, yeah, it's probably fake, especially when it says you will be fired in bold red text for sharing it. That's not actually stuff that they pass around. I mean, they don't pass that around at all at the office. So in this case, there are some things we can gather as we head into this event later on today, because some companies, some developers are just sharing that they'll be there. Okay, so we'll start from the top here as we cycle through. So for one, Wolverine, it's going to have a significant part here. Go figure. All right. Like we're expecting pre-orders to go live later. I think they will be showing off gameplay, obviously, for the game, but also I think we're going to get a look at some other characters, some probably tying it into X-Men. That'd be my assumption there. So that'll be kind of interesting just to see how their roles are reprised and stuff here in the game, and what exactly that holds for the future then of Insomniac and Marvel. All right, I mean, we're to the point now where there's an entire countdown timer for this state of play. So Sony is treating this, I think, more so like a showcase than a state of play. That's just the wording they're going with, the branding that they've been using this entire generation. That God of War Face spin-off title, I kind of think that's the closeout. I've been going back and forth on this, but I think that's gonna be like their one last thing. And it's gonna be more, the word is Devil May Cry inspired, or I guess you could look to like the old Greek saga God of War games as opposed to the more up and close and personal recent Norse saga God of War games. Intergalactic also has a shot at being here since Neil Druckmann did post over on social media. And while it was seemed to be referencing all different works he had been part of, Last of Us was one that people pointed out, and then Intergalactic as well. Break-In, which is the renamed Fair Games, should be, I guess, reappear, and I don't know. We'll see how that one goes. Maybe it looks radically different, and people kind of forget that Fair Games was a thing, and then they look at this and go, oh, that looks cool. I mean, that might be pie in the sky thinking there, but hey, they'll take a shot at it. Marvel Tokon, I mean, it seems obvious they would have a character reveal. I keep hearing people are kicking around the idea of Carnage. I think that'd be kind of neat just to see it in this art style and the move sets. That could be a lot of fun, all right? Maverick Games, they will show their open world narrative racing game today, and everyone's kind of assuming, okay, must be at the state of play. These are the former Forza Horizon or just Playground developers, and they kind of have spun off into their own studio, Maverick Games, and they've been teasing this now for the past week or so, and it has been leading up to the state of play. So, I mean, I'll be interested to just see what they do there with their open world narrative racing game. We've already talked about the Rayman games. I would assume both of them are here. And something that was mentioned with some of these leaks and rumors is that there could be a bit of an Astrobot crossover with Rayman. So hey, I'm all for more Astrobot. They should absolutely do that. Ace Combat 8 we talked about was rated. To me, this seems like a good spot for it here. For a PlayStation to have the new Ace Combat game get dated. Onimusha, same thing, although I think Capcom's going to be all over the place over the next several events that happen in the course of the next week or two. So we're kind of guessing, but Onimusha needs a release date. We're thinking September. That is the word going around right now. The Resident Evil Code Veronica remake, that could also be here. And, I'm going to throw this out there because hardware, it's kind of hard to guess now. I mean, we just talked about Sony and their Fight Stick that's coming out in a few months. What about that PlayStation Portal rumor going around that they were going to have a new one with it, I'd say improved Wi-Fi, but also an OLED display. And I think that's important to note because like OLED screens, we look at these handhelds and we think, oh, OLED is the expensive part of these devices. Now it's become DRAM. And I will say the PlayStation Portal doesn't exactly have a ton of DRAM or anything like that, right? But it still has components and chips that are in high demand just outright, as like everything is going up in price. So if you put an OLED screen in there and all of a sudden you go, hey, that's worth $300 now, as opposed to it went up in price, it's like $230 or something. That is a considerable jump on Sony's side when it comes to margin. But also, I'm sure many people would go, oh, an OLED display, better Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's worth $300 then. It is getting kind of pricey, I will admit, for what is effectively a remote streaming device, but that's just if it even happens at all. So that's something I'd at least be curious to see how that turns out. But for the most part, I think Sony is poised to have a big time show here. A lot of surprises, should run for about, I think, 70 minutes, maybe more than that even. So I'll have a full reaction to it. after it's concluded. And then later on tonight, we're going to have a special episode of Click R3 where a bunch of us come together and just talk about the State of Play show. So it should be a lot of fun. Here's hoping for some big time announcements. Next up, let's talk about a big game that appears to have leaked a little early for the Switch 2, and that is a new edition of Minecraft. And I know you're like, oh, what, Minecraft already works on the Switch 2. That is correct, but it is the Switch 1 version that does have limitations. Obviously, it has to run on the Switch 1, but compared to what the Switch 2 could have with different improvements around even world size, obviously visual effects, frame rate, whatever else. And what's interesting about this, it's basically popped up over on the ESRB website as its own separate listing. So it's not necessarily just like rolled in with the other ones. It's just their Switch 2 edition Minecraft. And Minecraft is massive on the Switch 1. I mean, it's actually huge even for Microsoft because, of course, they own Mojang. In Japan, where Microsoft really doesn't sell a lot of stuff, actually Forza Horizon 6 is the first time, I think, a Microsoft Studios specific game that they publish that actually charted. Yeah, so, and that's because Forza Horizon, for the most part, takes place in Japan. So obviously you're going to have a lot of interest in that, but for a physical Xbox game to chart with the limited number of Xbox systems out there, that is quite impressive. So when you see Minecraft constantly up there, but being sold for the Switch 1, it does make sense why, yeah, I'm sure they'd be rushing at this point. I say rushing, but we're about to be a year into the system's life. But to get I'd say a good version of Minecraft onto the Switch 2, and there are rumors going around currently about there being a direct on the 4th. As in like 2 days from now. So I figure, well, we'll mention it here just in case Nintendo tries to pull a fast one on me and it's like, oh yeah, okay, there's a direct, and they announce it an hour after Newswave goes up. But my thing is, I still kind of think if we're going to see a direct, which we all assume it's in June, obviously it's like that E3 kind of time period, probably the week after a lot of the big events happen. So probably I'd say next Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll have a direct. And so if they did it this week, while it would coincide technically with the 1-year anniversary of the Switch 2, it would also be incredibly crowded. I wouldn't mind that because it's like, well, we just have a lot of games dropping here, but I also wouldn't mind if it was spread out a bit. However, Minecraft on the Switch 2, while it could be announced that Microsoft's thing, because they say they have no problem showing different logos, kind of seems like something they'd even go, we should put that in the direct, because we want to get this out to more and more Switch 2 owners out there, especially if they already have Minecraft on the Switch 1, even bring them back to check it out on their new system. So one way or the other, I think we're going to be seeing Minecraft on the Switch 2, that announcement, probably in the next week, maybe 2 weeks. And it also wouldn't shock me if it was one of those situations where they're just like, hey, it's out now, go ahead and download it or pick up Minecraft for the first time. Next up, let's talk about Nvidia, who had a pretty big announcement. They themselves say that this is the evolution of the computer. 40 years later, this is the computer 2. Well, they announced this at Computex, and Jensen Huang was up on stage going over all these different things. Specifically, though, AI, agentic AI. It was a big talking point. He spent like 90% of the entire presentation on that. The other 5% was probably on robotics, and the other 5%, well, 4%, was on this musical number at the end that looked like it was generated by AI, and then there was 1%, just a little sliver, of gaming that was in there. Okay, so we do have some chips we can talk about that should be coming to market later on this year, but we can see this is over on Nvidia's site. They have their whole press site that they push this out saying, designed for AI, creating and gaming, RTX Spark brings together 30 years of NVIDIA innovation, including NVIDIA CUDA, RTX, DLSS, FP4, Tensor RT, optics, Reflex, and G-Sync to slim Windows laptops with all-day battery life and small, ultra-efficient desktop PCs. This is indeed NVIDIA's push into entire, like, all-in-one chipsets using ARM and, of course, their own GPU technology. And they say, the PC is being reinvented. This is Jensen Huang, okay, founder, CEO of NVIDIA, saying, for 40 years, you launched apps, click, type. With RTX Spark and Microsoft Windows, you ask, and the PC does the work. RTX Spark brings everything NVIDIA has built, CUDA, RTX, our AI platform, into a single superchip, local agents, frontier models, creative workflows, RTX games, all on a laptop. This is the new PC, the personal AI computer. All right, so we have 2 chips that they specifically were talking about, it seems. The N1X, that's like their big flagship chip. I think that's the one they're probably going to launch first because these things aren't going to be cheap A little more on that in a moment. Then there's the N1. That is like a more cut down, I'd say more mainstream version, as in somewhat affordable version. Now, he did hold up, that being Jensen, 2 laptops, one with 007, one with Forza Horizon 6 for all of maybe 10 seconds, just to show that, hey, it works on these chips. And then he quickly threw them aside so we could talk more about AI and just AI agents and robotics. That was what the majority of the presentation was all about. But this is the thing, right? We've been seeing how the industry has been moving, this AI obsession. Now with these chips from Nvidia, working that in with Windows and Microsoft and implementing ARM for like the lower power, ultra efficient PCs. The idea is to be able to run a lot of this AI stuff built into Windows, leveraging these chips going forward. And this is an entire roadmap they've built out. So yes, AI is getting completely merged into their operating system and leveraging what I assume to be just Nvidia trying to put a stranglehold on the market with these specific chips. But it is launching in devices, several hardware manufacturers. They named Asus, Dell, HP, Lenovo, Microsoft Surface, MSI. You'll see Acer and Gigabyte. Those will follow later on. Fall 2026 is when they are targeting a release for this. No pricing details yet. I assume these are going to be expensive, specifically the N1X. I would be shocked if it was anything less than $1,500. I'm thinking it'll be closer to $2,000 when it's all said and done, as you'll see these manufacturers also, of course, want to get their piece of the pie. And so it won't necessarily be something that'll have heavy adoption right out of the gate. But over time, as you see these chips get more and more, like they evolve more and more, we have more iterations of them, and they cycle through and they get cheaper. Yeah, that is kind of the future that a lot of these companies are trying to push right now. AI fully integrated at like a system OS level, especially with Windows. And I don't think it's going to stop there. I really do think this is going to be a position where Nvidia will try to move the market along with Microsoft themselves, so that just about everyone else follows, Apple, whatever else. So it's going to be interesting. But I am curious to see some of the actual benchmarks, at least for these chips when it comes to gaming, because we haven't seen any of that at all since they spent the entire show, talking about AI. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a new Xbox ROG Ally that was announced, the X20, and that's to coincide with the 20th anniversary of ROG, or Republic of Gamers, the brand that Asus has had for, 20 years. Anyway, there is an entire handheld that they are releasing while using the same specs just about of the Ally X. They are doing a few tweaks here and there to improve it. So like we can see some of it here. Now, this does have a 7.4-inch OLED panel, 1920 by 1080, 120 hertz refresh rate. Okay, AMD FreeSync support, HDR support. They say up to 1400 nits peak brightness. That's pretty good. That sounds like a pretty nice display. Still using that Ryzen Z2 Extreme processor, 24 gigabytes LPDDR5X RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. They did say TMR joysticks. That's nice. Okay, so less concerns, if any, probably none, when it comes to stick drift. They have a redesigned D-pad, buttons, triggers, haptics, a faster microSD express card slot, updated cooling system with redesigned fans. There's this translucent anniversary shell, and the Xbox button now lights up green. So that's kind of cool. It's going to be bundled with a pair of the ROG X Real R1 Edition 20 gaming AR glasses, and they didn't tell us about a price, which means it's going to be very, very expensive. I think the ROG Xbox Ally X now, it's actually still holding at $1,000. Little surprising after what we saw with the Steam Deck. Technically, that's like $50 less, and the Ally X is quite a bit more capable than that Steam Deck. So I'm going to assume what we're looking at here is probably closer to $2,000 if I had to take a guess, just because I think that the ROG Xbox Ally X will probably go up a couple $100, probably to $1,200 or $1,300. And that's the optimistic take on it. So there you go. No massive jump when it comes to the chipset side or just its overall capabilities, but with an OLED display, TMR sticks, it is just a nicer overall device versus the original. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, will we see the first trailer for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 this week? Okay, 58% say yes, 42% say no. I kind of feel like it's time, because I think this game is coming out in 2027. I don't think they want to push it till when we're gonna see the PS6 on the market, or even the Xbox Helix. I kind of feel like they want to slot in right before that happens. So yeah, then they can also, a year or two later, release a PlayStation 6 version of part 3, and then maybe do a whole trilogy pack. I'm sure there's ways they're going to try to re-release this game a couple of times here going forward. But Rebirth will then have released, like let's say not at PlayStation, but at Summer Game Fest, they'll be a couple days clear of Rebirth having released then on Xbox and on Switch too. So you can at least say, hey, they're available. We're going to show you this very out of context trailer to get people excited and then set up the year for release 2027, which is when I'd expect maybe first half actually of next year for this game to come out, finally completing the trilogy and ending what has been a winding story. So I am interested to see how it concludes. So I'm hoping we do get that trailer this week. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Matt, who says, I'm not going to show you the image itself. Shows you the image. I don't know what you're talking about. I showed you. Go Nintendo's website, the page. Maybe it had the image on there. I'm not sure. I showed you their webpage. Go Nintendo likes to host images sometimes. So that's all I can do is show you that right there. And then you can decide for yourself. Okay, maybe we cut that in by accident. Hey, you know what? That's Go Nintendo can deal with that one. So, hey, I mean, the art book thing's going around right now. It is still that one image, but I do feel like Nintendo, the way they've operated in the past, they'll find whoever put that image out there. But hey, they didn't strike the video, at least not yet. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to check out what I think is just a terrible idea for a controller. Took a look at it over the weekend, and I'll leave it in a video right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.